Welcome back to your community. We have been awaiting your arrival, chosen soul. The people who have been silent the longest are about to become the voices nobody can ignore. If you have felt overlooked, dismissed, or unheard for years, this message is going to explain why your silence was never weakness. It was preparation, and what has been prepared in the quiet is about to be released with a force that will shift everything around you. If you have been waiting for your moment to speak, to be seen, to be heard, type the word voice in the comments. Because your voice is not lost, it is being sharpened. And sharpened voices cut through noise in ways that loud voices never can. Let me start with a truth that will reframe your entire story. You have not been silent because you had nothing to say. You have been silent because what you carry is too significant to waste on audiences that are not ready to receive it. There is a difference between being silenced and choosing silence. One is oppression, the other is strategy. And you, whether you realized it or not, have been operating in strategy. Think about this. When someone is constantly talking, constantly reacting, constantly defending, they are operating from a place of insecurity. They need to be heard because they are not sure they matter. But when someone is quiet, when they observe more than they speak, when they listen more than they respond, that is confidence, that is power. That is someone who knows their value does not depend on who acknowledges it. Let me explain what happens in silence that cannot happen in noise. When you are silent, you develop the ability to see patterns that talkers miss. You notice how people behave when they think nobody is paying attention. You see who is consistent and who is performing. You observe who operates with integrity when there is no audience and who changes their behavior based on who is watching. That level of discernment is only available to people who know how to be quiet long enough to observe. Silence also gives you emotional intelligence that reactive people lack. When you are not constantly defending yourself, explaining yourself, or justifying yourself, you have the mental space to actually process what is happening. You can analyze situations from multiple angles. You can consider long-term consequences instead of just immediate reactions. You can respond strategically instead of emotionally, and that strategic thinking becomes your greatest advantage. Think about a chess master. They do not make the first move that comes to mind. They sit in silence. They study the board. They consider multiple scenarios. They think 5 moves ahead. And when they finally move, it is calculated, precise, and effective. That is what your silence has been doing. You have been studying the board while everyone else was moving impulsively. And now, when you make your move, it is going to be so well thought out that people will wonder how you saw what they missed. You have been that person. The one in the room who did not need to dominate the conversation. The one who let others take credit while you kept building. The one who stayed quiet while others talked loud. And for a long time, people mistook your silence for weakness. They thought you were intimidated. They thought you lacked confidence. They thought you did not have anything valuable to contribute. They were wrong. Your silence was never submission. Your silence was observation. You were watching, you were learning, you were analyzing, you were taking notes on who was real and who was performing. You were gathering data on patterns, motives, and systems. And all of that information is about to become the foundation for a voice that carries more weight than anything loud voices have been saying. Hit that like button if you have ever been underestimated because you were quiet. Because what people did not realize is that quiet people are not empty. Quiet people are full. And when full people finally speak, They do not just add to the conversation, they change it. Here is what happens when you stay silent while everyone else is loud. You develop discernment. You learn to hear what is not being said. You notice what others miss. You see through performances that others believe. And over time, you accumulate a kind of wisdom that loud people will never have, because wisdom requires listening, and listening requires silence. Let me break down what I mean by hearing what is not being said. When you are quiet, you start to notice inconsistencies. Someone says one thing, but their body language says another. Someone claims to believe something, but their actions contradict it. Someone presents themselves one way publicly, but behaves differently privately. Loud people miss these things because they are too busy broadcasting to receive. But you, in your silence, have been receiving. And what you have received is a database of truth that goes beyond words. You also develop the ability to sense atmospheres. You walk into rooms and immediately know if something is off. You can feel tension that others are oblivious to. You can sense when someone is being inauthentic, even if everyone else is buying the performance. That sensitivity was not given to you. It was developed in you through years of observing instead of performing. And that sensitivity is about to become one of your greatest assets. Here is another gift of silence. You have learned when to speak and when to stay quiet. Fools speak on everything. Wise people speak on what matters. You are not going to waste your voice on trivial arguments. You are not going to exhaust yourself defending positions that do not matter. You have learned to conserve your energy for battles that are worth fighting and conversations that are worth having. And that conservation of energy means that when you do speak, you are not depleted. You are full. And full people speak with a clarity that empty people cannot replicate. That is what has been happening to you. While others were talking, you were listening. While others were reacting, you were processing. While others were defending themselves, you were strengthening yourself. And now you are walking into a season where the wisdom you accumulated in silence is about to be released as authority. Not borrowed authority, not positional authority, earned authority, the kind that people recognize even when you have no title. Let me tell you what is about to happen. Doors are going to open that require a voice. Opportunities are going to present themselves that demand you speak. Rooms are going to become available that need what you carry. And when you walk into those spaces, you are not going to need to prove yourself. You are not going to need to convince anyone. You are going to speak, and the weight of your words will do what years of loud voices could not. They will shift atmospheres, they will expose lies, they will bring clarity where there was confusion. This is not arrogance. This is the natural result of a voice that has been refined in silence. Voices that are formed in noise are reactive. Voices that are formed in quiet are responsive. And responsive voices carry wisdom that reactive voices lack. Comment the number 777 if you sense that your silent season is ending and your speaking season is beginning. Now, let me address something important. Some of you have been angry about being overlooked. You have watched people with less experience, less skill, and less integrity get platforms while you stayed in the background. And you have wondered why heaven allowed that. Why did God let them be seen while keeping you hidden? Why did they get opportunities while you got passed over? Let me tell you why. Premature visibility destroys unprepared people. When you are given a platform before you are ready, you become a performer instead of a contributor. You start saying what people want to hear instead of what they need to hear. You start managing your image instead of developing your message, and eventually you become a hollow version of what you could have been. All noise, no substance. I have seen this happen over and over again. Someone gets a platform too early. At first, it looks like blessing. Opportunities are opening, people are paying attention, influence is growing. But underneath the surface, something is deteriorating. They are speaking more but saying less. They are visible everywhere but grounded nowhere. They are known by many but understood by few. Because they were elevated before they were established, they were given a voice before they developed a message, and now they are trapped in a cycle of performance that never leads to transformation. Heaven kept you hidden, not because you were not good enough, but because you were too valuable to be wasted on premature visibility. What you carry requires depth that can only be developed in secret. It requires roots that can only grow underground. It requires strength that can only be forged in pressure. And all of that happens away from applause, away from attention, away from audiences. Think about it this way. Gold is not formed on the surface. It is formed deep in the earth, under intense heat and pressure. Diamonds are not created in view. They are created in darkness, under crushing weight. The most valuable things are always formed in hidden places. And you, in your hiddenness, have been becoming valuable in ways that visible people never will. Heaven kept you hidden because what you carry is too important to be reduced to performance. You were not ready for visibility because visibility would have corrupted what was being formed in you. The silence was not punishment. It was protection. Protection from the pressure to perform before you had clarity. Protection from the temptation to speak before you had wisdom. Protection from platforms that would have elevated you before you were rooted. And now, as that protection lifts and visibility begins, you are not stepping into it as someone desperate to be heard. You are stepping into it as someone confident in what you have to say. That difference is everything. Desperate voices seek validation. Confident voices deliver value. You are no longer in the first category. You have graduated to the second. Let me paint a picture of what is coming. There are rooms you are about to enter where everyone has been talking for years and nothing has changed. Meetings where the same conversations keep happening but no progress is being made. Spaces where loud voices have created noise but not movement. And you are going to walk into those rooms, and when you speak, things are going to shift. Not because you are louder, not because you are more aggressive, not because you dominate, but because what you say will carry a clarity that cuts through confusion. Your words will expose what has been hidden. Your insight will reveal what has been missed. And your voice, the one that has been silent for so long, will become the one people reference long after the meeting is over. Share where you are watching from. Let me know what city or country you are in, because this shift is not isolated. This is a global movement of people who have been silent stepping into their voice, and your location is part of that testimony. Here is what you need to prepare for. When you start speaking, not everyone is going to celebrate it. Some people were comfortable with your silence because it made them feel more important. Your quietness allowed them to be loud. Your invisibility allowed them to be visible. And now that you are stepping into voice and visibility, they are going to feel threatened. They are going to try to minimize what you say. They are going to question your credentials. They are going to remind you that you have been quiet for so long. So why speak now? And you need to be ready for that resistance, because it is not about you, it is about them. Your voice challenges their narrative. Your presence disrupts their position. And instead of adjusting, they will try to silence you again. Do not let them. You did not stay quiet this long just to shrink when it is finally time to speak. You did not accumulate all that wisdom just to withhold it when people need it most. Speak anyway. Speak clearly. Speak boldly. And let the resistance confirm that what you are saying matters. Because if it did not matter, they would not be trying so hard to silence it. Let me tell you what makes a voice powerful. It is not volume. It is not frequency. It is not even eloquence. What makes a voice powerful is alignment between what is said and what is lived. When your words match your life, people listen. When your message matches your character, people trust. And you have been living in a way that most people only talk about. You have been developing integrity while others were developing image. And now, when you speak, your life backs up your words in ways that no amount of charisma could replicate. This is the difference between influence and manipulation. Manipulation uses words to create an image that does not match reality. Influence uses words to articulate a reality that already exists. Manipulators talk about things they have not lived. Influencers share things they have walked through, and people can feel the difference even if they cannot articulate it. When you speak from a place of lived experience, there is a weight to your words that performance cannot fake. There is authenticity that people recognize even if they have never met you. There is credibility that does not require credentials because your life is the credential. And that credibility is what makes people not just hear you, but receive you. Think about the people who have influenced you most in life. It was not the ones with the best speeches. It was the ones whose lives validated their message. It was the people who practiced what they preached. It was the voices that carried the weight of experience, not just the polish of presentation. That is the kind of voice you are becoming, not a voice that performs, a voice that transforms. This is why your voice is going to carry weight, not because you are trying to be impressive, but because you are being authentic. And authenticity always outlasts performance. Before I go further, if this message is resonating with you, go ahead and subscribe. Because what is being released through this channel is not random. It is targeted truth for people who are transitioning from silence into voice. And staying connected keeps you aligned with that frequency. Now, let me talk about timing. You might be wondering, why now? Why is this season shifting now? What changed? Here is what changed. You changed. The you that needed to be quiet is not the same you that is about to speak. The you that was gathering information is not the same you that is about to release revelation. You have been upgraded, and that upgrade was not instant. It was incremental, day by day, conversation by conversation, disappointment by disappointment. You were being rebuilt into someone who could handle the responsibility of influence, because here is what most people do not realize. Influence is a responsibility, not a reward. When people listen to what you say, when they trust your perspective, when they follow your lead, you become responsible for where you take them. And if you have not developed the character to steward that responsibility well, you will misuse it. You will manipulate instead of motivate. You will control instead of guide. You will build a following instead of developing people. Let me be very clear about this. There are people with platforms who have no business having them. They use their voice to serve themselves instead of serving others. They speak to build their brand instead of building people. They leverage influence for personal gain instead of collective growth. And eventually, their influence becomes toxic. It attracts the wrong people, creates the wrong culture, and produces the wrong outcomes. Heaven could not give you influence until you were ready to steward it correctly, because influence in the wrong hands becomes manipulation. Authority in an immature person becomes tyranny. A voice without character becomes noise. And heaven does not waste voices on people who will misuse them. You had to be formed first. You had to be tested first. You had to be proven trustworthy in small things before being entrusted with large things, and the silent season was where that stewardship was formed. You learned how to listen before you learned how to speak. You learned how to serve before you learned how to lead. You learned how to follow before you learned how to influence. And now, all of that preparation is about to pay off in ways that will surprise even you. Heaven could not give you influence until you were ready to steward it correctly, and the silent season was where that stewardship was formed. You learned how to listen before you learned how to speak. You learned how to serve before you learned how to lead. You learned how to follow before you learned how to influence. And now, all of that preparation is about to pay off in ways that will surprise even you. Let me give you some practical signs that your voice is about to be activated. First, you are going to feel a boldness rising that you have not felt before. Not recklessness, boldness. A clarity about what needs to be said, and the courage to say it even when it is uncomfortable. That boldness is not coming from you trying harder. It is coming from heaven positioning you for platforms that require it. Second, you are going to start noticing that people are asking for your perspective. Conversations that used to happen without you are suddenly stopping until you weigh in. Decisions that used to be made without your input are now waiting for your opinion. People who used to overlook you are now seeking you out. That is not coincidence. That is confirmation that your season is shifting. Third, you are going to feel an urgency to speak that you did not have before. Things that used to bother you in silence are now demanding a response. Issues that you used to observe from a distance are now requiring you to step in. That urgency is not frustration. It is activation. Heaven is pressing you to use what you have been given because the time to use it has arrived. Drop a fire emoji in the comments if you are feeling that urgency to speak rising inside you right now. Here is what you need to understand about your message. It is not going to sound like everyone else's message. It is not going to fit neatly into categories people are familiar with. It is not going to echo what has already been said, because your message was formed in a unique process. Your wisdom was developed in a specific season. Your perspective was shaped by experiences that only you walked through. And that originality is what makes it valuable. Do not try to sound like the voices that are already out there. Do not mimic the people who have platforms. Do not copy the language, the tone, or the delivery of others just because it worked for them. What worked for them came from their process. What will work for you will come from yours. Be original, be authentic, be you, because the world does not need another version of someone else. The world needs the first version of you. Let me explain why originality matters. We live in a culture of imitation. People see something work and they copy it. They see someone succeed and they replicate their formula. And for a while, imitation might generate results. But imitation never creates legacy. Imitation never shifts culture. Imitation never produces lasting transformation. Because imitation, by definition, is secondary. It is a copy, and copies are always inferior to originals. You were not created to be a copy. You were created to be an original, and the process you walked through, the silence you endured, the wisdom you accumulated, all of it was uniquely designed to produce a voice that has never been heard before. not because you are trying to be different, but because you are being authentic to who you actually are. Here is what happens when you embrace your originality. You attract the right people. People who need what only you can offer. People who resonate with your specific frequency. People who are waiting for someone to say what you are about to say in the way only you can say it. You will not appeal to everyone, and that is okay. You are not supposed to. You are supposed to reach the ones you are assigned to, and the ones you are assigned to will recognize your voice even if they have never heard it before. Do not try to sound like the voices that are already out there. Do not mimic the people who have platforms. Do not copy the language, the tone, or the delivery of others just because it worked for them. What worked for them came from their process. What will work for you will come from yours. Be original, be authentic, be you, because the world does not need another version of someone else. The world needs the first version of you. Let me also prepare you for something uncomfortable. When you start speaking, you are going to make mistakes. You are going to say things that do not land the way you intended. You are going to have moments where you wish you had said it differently, and that is okay. Perfection is not the goal. Communication is. You are not trying to deliver flawless speeches. You are trying to deliver truth. And truth, even when it is delivered imperfectly, still has power. Do not let the fear of imperfection keep you silent. Do not let the pressure to be polished prevent you from being heard. Speak anyway, adjust as you go, learn from the missteps, and trust that your willingness to speak imperfectly is more valuable than someone else's commitment to staying silent until they are perfect. Now let me address those of you who feel like you do not have the platform yet to speak. You are waiting for the invitation. You are waiting for the opportunity. You are waiting for the opportunity. You are waiting for the door to open. And while you are waiting, you are staying silent. Let me tell you something. Your voice does not need permission to exist. Your message does not require a platform to be valid. Start speaking now. In the rooms you are already in, with the people you already have access to, on the platforms that are already available. Do not wait for a large audience to say what heaven has given you to say. Start small, start local. Start with the one person in front of you, because faithfulness in small spaces qualifies you for larger ones. And the voice you develop in private conversations will be the same voice that fills public stages. Your moment is not coming. Your moment is here. The question is not whether you have permission to speak. The question is whether you will be obedient to speak. And obedience does not wait for perfect conditions. Obedience moves with what is available and trusts heaven to expand it. Comment ready to speak if you are making the decision right now to stop waiting for permission and start using your voice where you are. Here is what is going to happen when you finally release what has been building in silence. You are going to be amazed at how much was stored up. You thought you were just surviving. You thought you were just getting through, but you were actually compiling. Every conversation you observed, every lesson you learned, every experience you processed, all of it has been stored. And now, as you begin to speak, you are going to pull from reserves you did not even know you had. Words are going to come out of your mouth that surprise you. Insights are going to form that you did not plan. Wisdom is going to flow that you did not rehearse. Because what you carry is not just intellectual knowledge, it is lived wisdom. And lived wisdom speaks with a power that academic knowledge cannot replicate. Let me also tell you what is not going to happen. You are not going to become loud just because you are speaking. You are not going to become arrogant just because you have authority. You are not going to become careless just because you have confidence. The character that was formed in silence is going to govern how you operate in visibility. You are going to speak with power, but you are also going to speak with humility. You are going to carry authority, but you are also going to carry accountability. You are going to have influence, but you are also going to have integrity. That combination is rare. Most people who get platforms lose character. Most people who gain influence lose humility. Most people who develop voices lose accountability. But not you, because your voice was not formed in front of applause. It was formed in silence. And voices formed in silence carry a substance that voices formed in popularity never will. Before I close this out, I want to speak directly to those of you who are afraid of what will happen when you start speaking. You are afraid of rejection. You are afraid of criticism. You are afraid that what you say will not matter. Let me address each of those fears. First, rejection. Yes, some people will reject what you say. But rejection from the wrong people is actually confirmation that you are saying the right thing. Not everyone is supposed to receive your message. And the fact that some people reject it proves that it has an edge. Messages that everyone agrees with are usually too safe to be transformative. Speak anyway. Second, criticism. Yes, you will be criticized. But criticism is not always wrong. Sometimes criticism reveals blind spots you need to address. Sometimes it sharpens your message. And sometimes it confirms that you are threatening systems that need to be challenged. Learn to discern which criticism to receive and which to dismiss, but do not let the existence of criticism silence you. Third, impact. You are afraid that what you say will not matter. But impact is not measured by how many people hear you. Impact is measured by how deeply you affect the ones who do. One person changed is more valuable than 1,000 people entertained. Speak to the one and trust that the one you speak to might become the one who speaks to thousands. Take a deep breath, feel that weight lifting, sense the shift happening. You are not the same person who entered this silent season. You are stronger, wiser, and more prepared. And the voice you are about to release has been worth the wait. If this word has activated something in you, let me know. Comment heard, drop an amen, or share your story, because your agreement with this truth accelerates your activation. And your activation is what the world is waiting for. You are standing at the edge of influence. The silent season is complete. The speaking season is here. And the same heaven that kept you quiet is about to amplify you. Walk forward with courage. Walk forward with clarity. And walk forward knowing that your voice, the one that has been refined in silence, is about to become the one nobody can ignore. The silent ones are about to speak. And when they do, everything changes. This is your moment. This is your time. Use your voice. The world is ready to hear what you have been preparing to say. Go in power. The silence was preparation. The speaking is manifestation. And what comes next will prove that every quiet moment was building toward this loud impact. You are ready. You are equipped. And you are about to be heard. Together, we rise toward the light.